I just started a new track. Hooray. We did it. Do you have a story for me? You want to start with a little story? You want to give me a little tidbit? I have tidbits for days from this week. This week was full of golden, hilarious moments.
I have a story.
Okay, hit me.
Because I think this is a really fun story.
Okay, hit me.
So I went to a drag brunch in Vegas.
Yes, we love this.
And it was RuPaul's drag show, right?
Yes.
And the host, I don't remember a lot of their names, unfortunately. The only one I remember is Hot Chocolate. She is 70 or in her 60s or 70s. She's been on the Vegas Strip for 45 years as a Tina Turner impersonator, and she's a legend. And let me tell you, Hot Chocolate, you are a legend if you're listening.
Yeah.
But the host, right? She was the first ever to be cast on RuPaul's drag show, right? Like
cool.
15 years ago. First ever contestant, and she's the host out there. So there's this guy. There's a big group of people from Texas in the middle of the like area or whatever for the stage.
Okay.
And there's a 24-year-old, big beard, scruffy looking dude, right? He's there for his birthday. His name is Dylan. And let me tell you, once she got done like asking everybody like, where are you from? We're landed on Dylan, and it was his birthday. So immediately, he's going to be the target. Straight guy at a drag show for his birthday with his girlfriend and family, right? So there's so many moments where they're messing with Dylan.
What was the best one?
But my favorite is she's about halfway through the show. They're getting ready to do like the back half of it, and she's doing her little crowd work again. And by the way, this host, I'm gonna have a clip. I'm gonna have clips of this up on my Instagram and on my TikTok. Okay. I'm clipping all of her best moments from when she was hosting.
Okay.
Amazing, 10 out of 10. I started to cry from laughing so much from her. So she's up on the stage. She's getting ready to announce. She's walking down, and she's just out of nowhere. She's just like, Dylan. I know that 2 hours a week when nobody's around and you're on Pornhub, you're into me, and you wish I was in you. Next up is Hot Chocolate just rolls right, and the look on Dylan's face was pure like
embarrassment.
You're right, like it was you're right, and it was just it was the best, and it was just like her crowd work with everybody, like it was just 10 out of 10.
Dude, drag performers are I think the reason people are really like attempting to ban drag book readings, right, and drag brunches and stuff in conservative states is because they've realized that these women are outperforming everybody. Like they're just putting in the fucking work.
Dude.
Have you ever seen a 190-pound lithe woman do pirouettes in goddamn stilettos? Come on.
I have a clip.
People can't do that shit normally.
I'm going to send this to you after the pod, and I'll put this up on my Instagram story too. When this episode comes out, I'll put this up so it'll go up for 24 hours. There's one of the performers. She sprints across the stage, jumps, lands in a splits, rolls on her back, and starts doing, and then, it was she was doing splits and somersaults and stilettos, dude.
You don't even see Nicki Minaj pulling shit like that off, right? Like these women out Minaj, right?
Right?
Like
the ultimate
legitimately ultimate menagerie. All right. You ready to clap?
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Yeah.
We got to go to a
time
drag show
every
together.
time. Welcome back to the Unpop Podcast. It's a nonstop pop culture potpourri episode. I am your host, Kevin Miner, El Capitan, todo siempre. He, him. With me, as always, is...
I thought we were past the potpourri. I thought we were past this.
We will never get past
It's Odie Matthews, they, them, but I thought we were past the potpourri mistake from season 1.
We will never get past the potpourri. This episode is a proper potpourri. We're just talking about pop culture potpourri, baby. It's all over the place.
This episode is sponsored by Raycon. Use discount code ODIE15 to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. And if you think that's a fake thing, it's not, because I just got a sponsorship from Raycon.
Odie is actually sponsored by Raycon.
I am.
This episode for me is sponsored by water. Water. It does a body good. It does a body good.
Use code Kevin
use
at
discount
checkout.
code Kevin next time. People just standing. People are like, Kevin told me to use a discount code.
They're just
I'm buying
like
a
at
case
a water
of water.
fountain. They're at a water fountain going, Kevin, and then they're hitting the thing.
Perfect. That's all I want.
What are we here to talk about, Kevin?
We're recapping because you and I when we first started doing this podcast, like we were touching on a lot more pop culture stuff. Like we were kind of digging into like who we are and how we identify and like see ourselves within the spectrum of pop culture. And so that took us into the different genres that we like: film, TV, movies, music, and let's be honest, there's a million podcasts that are covering that kind of stuff. We were just bringing what we thought made us unique, right? And what we thought makes this unique to the table. This is the first one of these episodes that we've done in a while, right? I mean,
it's
we
a little
haven't had
bonus.
that much time. Yeah, it's pretty good. And moving forward, I'm actually looking into how I can start doing, now that I've got some more free time, I'd like to start interviewing some of the really awesome people that I'm meeting, like that Patrick guy and I. The Patrick guy who like sails with, sailing teams and consults for yachts and stuff around the world. Like I'd love to like just do a little episode chatting with him. And then, Natalie Carr can come back on. Izanagi just reached back out to me. A lot of the people from the Upstate Coffee Collective podcast are kind of like coming back. And it's cool to see how people have evolved in the past couple of years since I've talked to them last. So before we start getting into that, I think it's good to have these little like potpourri episodes. And I think this is the first of many where we're just kind of diving back into like, hey, what have you been listening to? What have you been watching? Like what's really stood out to you recently? And I kind of wanted to kick it off with, there was a little bit of good news that happened recently. The Dune movie date for Dune 2 got moved back up. Like it got moved back closer, only by like a couple weeks, but
still,
it had gotten pushed. Yeah, it had gotten pushed out before because of the strikes. And, they wanted to make sure that they had their cast going around doing the proper promotion.
Yeah.
For it.
And with Timothée Chalamet, I mean,
yeah. And Zendaya.
Chalamet, right? Do it. Am I right, everybody?
And Javier Bardem. Right, and you've got Josh Brolin, you've got Stellan Skarsgård, you've got
Stellan stealing the show.
Chris Batista, right? Is it Chris?
Dave?
What's his name? Dave Batista. Yeah, Dave Batista. I can't remember his name. I don't know. You got Dave Batista in it. Like, there's so many good actors. You got Florence Pugh in the new one, right? So many good actors in the new Dune, and I know that that's why it got pushed back, because they wanted to have all of the press coverage that they could get before it comes out. Because the first one kind of like, I don't think enough Star Wars fans knew that this is like the root of where the Star Wars dream started, And I don't think a lot of people who are into like pop culture knew how much of or even just sci-fi in general, knew how much of a mark the books from Frank Herbert had left on sci-fi in its nascent years, That's like my word of the season is nascent. It's like I'm acting like I've just learned that recently. But you know what it was? I read it and it was really poignant, and I was like, oh, I should use that more, because it's a good way to describe something that's young. It's early yet, without saying like in its infant years, because I think infant kind of demeans something. But if you say nascent, it's like in the early onset of this thing.
Yeah,
so,
I want this movie to do well because Denis Villeneuve makes incredible movies, but they never make any money.
Well, okay.
And I love him.
Yes.
And I want him to do well.
Yes. One of the things I wanted to chat with you about this. This came up recently. I was talking with some friends who are in the industry, going off of like films not making money and stuff like that. I was chatting with a couple friends who have different projects that have attachments to them. They've been pitched. They're being worked. They're being looked at by studios. And one of the things that came up is second viewing material. So like second viewing. You're familiar with this yet?
Very.
Okay, cool. I did not know this, but the first wave of second screen viewing is already here. And I don't know if you remember, but I had a complaint about the dialogue in Monarch, and it just turns out I was paying too much attention. It was a lot of the dialogue was written for second screen viewing, and I cannot that already just makes me dislike what's coming up for us in the future as far as like entertainment and consumption of media goes.
Yeah, and it's good because I want to talk about Monarch because I do think the show is good, but I don't know if that's necessarily true.
I think the plot is good, and I think the show is entertaining.
It's getting
I
there.
think that the dialogue just fucking suffers, man. It's but only if you're paying attention. Because I guarantee if I went back and I was just looking at my phone and then like looking up here and there and catching like, you know, the bits where like the music swells and the volume goes up a little bit and people are having a more important conversation that's directly relative to the plot, I think I would probably have a better opinion of it.
There's a lot of moments in this show, and okay, I want to talk about Monarch. That's why we're doing this.
Let's get into it. Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah, go ahead, break it down.
Set up the premise of this show. If you're familiar with the new Godzilla monster universe, which starts with the Godzilla 2014, that's Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of Monsters, Godzilla versus Kong, and then now Godzilla X Kong New Empire is the next one.
I don't know.
Yeah, crazy. But this is basically focusing on the first two. So there's elements of the Godzilla, and then there are some stuff from the Kong Skull Island movie.
Yes.
If you remember John Goodman's character from Kong Skull Island, in the flashback scenes in the 50s, that's his character, Bill Randa, who's played by one of the guys from Workaholics. And then you have
Anders Holm.
Thank you. And then there's Lieutenant Lee Shaw, who's played by Wyatt Russell in the 1950s and then played by Kurt Russell in 2015.
Yes. So in show in the 50s, you're watching Wyatt Russell, and then in present day, it's Kurt Russell.
Same character, which is cool. I like that. Yeah. And I love Kurt Russell, and I like Wyatt Russell, and I like the guy who you just said who plays Bill Randa. And I think that the cast, especially the girl who plays May, who is also briefly in the new Flash movie as Iris West, I think she's really good. I think the two Japanese characters who Kentaro and I can't remember the girl's name. I don't really know I haven't seen them in anything, but I think they do a really good job with what they're given.
I agree.
But I agree with you. There is a lot of scenes and a lot of dialogue in this movie, and I have some specific examples.
Series. Not movie.
Whatever. Show. That it's very like, oh, you said this just to set something up.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm okay with that, right? Like, I was watching a little info thing about something, and there was an episode of a show. I don't remember. It was from like the 80s, but basically the guy's talking to somebody on the phone, and he's like, I don't know, maybe, you know, I'll go out to do this thing that I can't afford. He starts talking about all these things that he might do, and then he stumbles into actually doing those things, right?
Okay.
So it's set it up, but unless you're like really paying attention, you wouldn't really know. Whereas in this, it's like, our dad used to shave our pencil with his knife and leave shavings everywhere. You're going to see shavings every fucking where for the next 3 episodes. Like, holy shit, there's so many shit. Like, how many? This pencil has to be like a millimeter long at this point because there's piles of shavings. He has an arsenal of pencils.
Every single time it's like, did you get it yet?
And they're perfectly in the snow.
Reference?
They're like perfectly there.
Remember we said that?
Yeah, so there's a moment in one of them where they go, spoilers, but they go to it's Bill Randa and his future girlfriend wife in the 50s, and they find this ship that's in the middle of the mountains, and she's like, how do you know all this stuff? And it's like, he was on this ship, like obviously he knows it. Like, what do you like? Oh
my god!
And then it's like he moves the thing out of his way and it says Randa, and it's like, he's all this about. But it's like, okay, cool, but like the whole scene that sets it up is they purposely just have Lee get mad for no fucking reason and act like a baby, so he drives off so those two can be by themselves in the ship and get attacked, so then he can just come back and save them.
Yeah, that's okay. So going along the same lines, because you did a good summary of that, like a similar thing where the dialogue super suffered and the movie suffered for it, and it was first off
series
way too fucking long. No, I'm talking about a movie now.
Oh, okay.
I'm transferring. No, because you did a good job. That was a good summary. I'm not gonna keep on Monarch. There's too much. We've watched
it's
too
good
much.
though.
We've listened to too much.
But
it's
like
fine.
Real quick at the end, but to wrap up Monarch, if you like the monster universe and you want, I would wait until all 10 episodes are out and then just watch them and maybe like even fast forward through some of the dead bits because that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I think that show is going to add a lot of cool lore and elements to the monster universe, which is going to make it really cool to rewatch if you're a fan of this stuff.
Agreed.
That's what I'll say.
One of the, I'll add to that like, I know I'm criticizing the dialogue of this show now because of like today's standards, but like if you're a fan of Godzilla movies and you love Godzilla and you've watched old Godzilla movies, that's the worst dialogue. Like it's true. It's like I know that I'm criticizing this one now, but it's way worse. And I used to love those movies. I ate them up as a kid, So like you also have to put the lens on that this is like a PG-13 thing, right? So like as 30-something-year-olds, of course, we're not going to be blown out of our seats by this thing that's meant for 13 plus, right? That's something to consider. Another, so on the back of that, I saw Hunger Games songs.
3-hour Hunger Games
Snakes,
prequel,
whatever. Yeah, I saw the 3-hour Hunger Games prequel, which is just one of like however many they're trying to make, probably 3.
Probably,
but it was so bad. It was not good, and
it
like
looked bad.
It
was boring.
It looked like it was going to set up something cool, and then it just did not. And like so much of the stuff that happened in that movie feels like it happened for nothing. And then the person I went to see it with was like, "Well, that kind of seems like that's what happened in the books." And she's like, "That was pretty accurate to the books." And I was like, "Really?"
That's boring.
Well, that's a bummer because that sucked. That like a lot of that shouldn't have happened the way that it happened. Like there were entire dialogue chunks that didn't even come to fruition later, and I'm like, well, what was the point of even having that scene if we're not doing anything with this? Like,
can I ask
what
you
is
a
the
question
point?
about that movie?
Yeah,
and again, still spoilers.
Yeah.
Have you seen? You've seen the 4 actual Hunger Game movies, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so my question is, does this whole thing? Because I think the answer is no. Does everything that Snow does, this whole love story, betrayal, yada yada yada, does that justify becoming the absolute worst person on the fucking planet?
No.
Okay. So this whole series is dumb. Got it.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
But maybe, I don't know. I don't like it. I think Hunger Games is dumb.
As it would turn out, he's the better devil of the entire system, right?
Of course.
Like, that doesn't mean that he's not a bad person, but like as you're watching this, you're like, oh, all of these other options would have been way worse,
But he becomes so, like, when we pick up with him, he is the worst, though. Like, he does atrocious things in the Hunger Games movies.
Oh, he does atrocious things in this, too. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's still bad.
Yeah, he's not a great guy.
But, like, I feel like this also... It sounds like this movie also tried to, like, do what it does with a lot of villains, like Venom and stuff, where it's like, yeah, they're a villain, but, like, they're not that bad as a villain. Like, they're
just
justified.
Yeah.
His heart was broken. It's okay.
I don't like the villain apologetics genre. Like, I don't care for it as much. It's like the
Joker.
reason that I think a villain is cool is because I'm not seeing all of them, right?
Exactly.
The reason that I enjoy watching like the Joker, Venom, any of like the more interesting Marvel villains, like is because I'm just getting the screenshot of them, and when they're on screen, when they're on stage, they fucking dominate, and it's great, and I love watching that. But once you peel back those layers, you're hopefully, as a person, you're not identifying with them too much anymore, and you're like, well, yeah, this isn't as good as I thought it would be. If you do identify with them, well, seek help. But
facts,
right?
Well, this. So, fuck, I forgot what I was gonna ask you now.
I don't know.
Keep going.
The only villain who I would ever appreciate seeing like an apologetics movie for would be Killmonger. Because one, Michael B. Jordan's amazing. 2, I think Killmonger's actually more of an anti-hero who everybody overreacted against than anything else, right? He what's his plan? Oh, he's gonna send out weapons to poor people. Oh no, what? Oh, he can't do that. But his plan wasn't I'm gonna blow up the planet. He was like I'm gonna arm the poor populace of the world, with weapons.
But on the Hunger Games, I remember what I was gonna say. So this is why, to me, I was like, I really want to wait till it comes out to streaming because I don't want to sit in the movie theater for this.
Yeah.
Because Goose likes the Hunger Games, and if they can hear me through the walls, they're probably upset that I said that it sucks, because it does. But
It's whatever.
this book was written in 2020.
Okay.
Right, so here's my problem with this. I did some research because I'm a curious person. I don't care about spoilers.
Yeah.
This book's written in 2020.
Yeah.
And it's about Snow as being younger, his rise to being president. Snow,
Yeah.
right? Or
Turns out he was actually kind of poor.
Yeah, his dad died in the revolution.
Yeah.
So he meets this girl, Lucy Gray, and they fall in love. And I know, again, still spoilers, at the end, she runs off into the woods and, like, disappears, right? Like, she kind of, like, just vanishes, right?
Yeah, kind of.
So my problem with this is, okay, that's a cool story. Now, if this was written before the rest of everything else, and maybe like an older Lucy Gray had shown up and like had helped her take down and find President Snow's weakness, or maybe she had been mentioned as like there was one person that escaped, the winner of the 10th Hunger Games, but they erased it from history. But the problem is, when you put this book as an actual prequel, there is nothing in it that is really mentioned that really makes it seem like it was thought out. It feels like an afterthought. And the problem with a prequel as an afterthought is then people like me are going to come along and go and be like, well, these are all the holes that you just created.
Yes.
And it's kind of,
I don't think it creates holes. I think it just does a whole lot of work for nothing. Like, the end result is just nothing.
Yeah.
And ultimately, at the end of it, like, is it an okay movie? Yeah, sure, fine, whatever, it's fine. Like, it's not, like, I didn't leave it going, wow, that was a waste of time. I was like, all right, that was all right. But, like, yeah, there's just like, I can't emphasize enough, there's just so much that happens in that movie that happens for fucking nothing. And I'm just like, I've left the theater going, wow, that was, like, it was okay, but it was unfulfilling. The other thing that I wanted to touch on was that, like, I did want to chat about how Taylor Swift is the most streamed artist in the world, and now we're never going to hear the fucking end of it. I did want to touch on that for a second, because, like, now that that's happened, the conversation around it has become that much more, like, polarized between the people who hate her and the people who really like her. And I just, like, I've had enough people, because I'm doing musical theater, and there's so many people in musical theater who fucking just love Taylor Swift and, like, swear by everything she says and does. And, like, they took offense that my position on her was that she's not as bad as people make her to seem, and they're like, oh yeah, she's not as bad as her haters think. And then I go, but she's definitely not as good as her best fans make her out to be.
That's what I think.
And, like, and they're like, how could you say that? She means so much to so many people. I'm like, that's when you mean something to people, that's different than being objectively good at your art form, right? And, like, and it's okay for me to say she's just okay. Like,
yeah, I mean, because she is just okay. I mean,
she's,
like,
fine.
People try to justify some of the stuff that, like, my stance, right, is that, and this is no secret, she is the largest emissions of private jet usage in the world. Right? And so, like, people over exaggerate how, like, upset this makes me. I just think that's really messed up that she can get away with this, and, like, nobody raises any flags. But, like,
well,
whatever,
why would we raise flags? We want her to fly. Well, like, you know, millions of people want her to fly to those places and do all these shows and stuff. So, like, why would anybody care?
Here's the argument that somebody said against me. They were like, well, yeah, but, like, she gave everybody on her Eris staff, like, $100,000 as a bonus. And I was like, oh, so, like, the equivalent of if you had $100 in your wallet and you gave everybody on your staff $1.
Yeah.
Like, the thing about this is like, yeah, she's mega fucking rich, and, like, $100,000 is a lot of money for those people. But what you're not thinking about is the fact that, like, one, it's probably a tax write-off. Two, it's not
huge.
A lot of money for her.
Gift.
And three, when you really think about how much fucking money she makes, that's nothing for what those people do.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Well, yeah. And I mean, ultimately, like, when it comes down to a really funny conversation that I had, somebody was, like, mentioning to me that she became the most... Somebody who knows that I just think she's okay mentioned they're like, she's the most popular artist in the world. I go, oh my gosh, she's like the biggest artist in the world. And they're like, yeah. And I go, wow, that puts her in line with all of the other biggest things in the world, like the biggest retail outlet, Amazon, and the biggest, the Chinese economy. And like, and I just started listing off all these other things that are the biggest, but maybe not necessarily the best. Like,
that's honestly such a good counterpoint. I'm stealing it.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Yeah. Like,
Stealing
she's the biggest in the world, like the biggest forest fire that happened in the Amazon, or like, you know, like,
Yeah.
like yeah, that
There's
was
a lot
the
of big
biggest, right?
things.
We celebrate the biggest.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
biggest
like the-
pizza in the world was fucking made in New York State.
Oh, the
and
biggest oil
nobody-
company
yeah,
in Dubai. Yeah,
exactly.
nice.
Yeah. You're the biggest. Congrats.
Yeah,
You did
woo!
it. Yeah, and you know, but that reflects my tastes and obviously my bias as I lean into artists that have a little more what I would call like grassroots authenticity about them. Like they can be more in touch with their fans. Their audiences aren't that massive. So, you know,
Yeah.
like I can't lobby just nothing but criticism, but that's why I end up on the point of just being like, yeah, she's obviously very talented and a lot of people like her, but you know, she's okay. Like
I think
it's not blowing me away.
I think for me, the problem with people like, I don't even want to say problem. When it comes to people like Taylor Swift and, you know, like people that like the show Euphoria or whatever, like it's
I love that you went there. Keep going.
I know, I couldn't think of anything else. That was the only thing that came to mind. But like,
Keep going.
it's the diehard fans
yeah.
that taint the image, because my problem at the end of the day, ultimately, like, I legitimately don't really have a problem with Taylor Swift at all, except for the fact that she uses her private jet too much. That's my own personal opinion.
She uses her private.
That's my only issue with her. Like,
I just love how that conversation would go. Like just Odie meeting Taylor. she's like very nice to meet you, Odie just going to like, you use your private jet too much, but I respect what you do.
Yeah, like honestly, like stop flying so much, but I respect you.
I respect
but
you.
like, it's
take a
the
bus
people
every once in a while.
that
That's
literally
probably bad.
like
Anyway.
go to her shows and like cry at seeing her and like stalk her to her venues and like have Taylor Swift rooms and shrines, and like it's the people that take it too far with anything. And I dislike these people when it comes to any fandom, like the people that take Star Wars to the point where they become misogynist and racist about it because this person can't be this because they're a woman and this person can't be. It's like, why? It's the diehard fans that truly ruin it, because if Taylor Swift just had normal fans across the board, I don't think anybody would really have a problem with her. But I think the fans taint a lot of her image on her behalf. Because they make her seem so much better than she is.
Well, when you take something to its extreme, there are shadow components of it, right? There's the obverse side of the coin. There's the negative sides, the negative traits of that can come out. You know, gatekeeping, using absolutist language with people, stuff like that. Like where all of a sudden you're treating your opinion like it's a fact. You know, and that's something that happens with like sports teams. It's something that happens with different things that happen in the economy. It happens with artists. Like it's part of human nature to do that. So like, I'm at the end of the day, I'm not going to like wag my finger at people and be like, you're doing it wrong, but like, whatever. But I did want to make sure that I touched on that because as I was enunciating that thought to myself, because I had to finally like explain it to somebody who was just blown away that I didn't like her. Like they were like, but you love really great musicians. I'm like, exactly. And like, they were like, you don't think she's a really great musician? I'm like, I think she's an okay musician. And that's just where I land. And like, I nothing anyone has ever done for me, and I've given it honest listens over and over and over again. Nothing anyone has ever shown me or done for me has like completely won me over on that. And that's fine. Like it might even just be that it's not for me. Like that's okay.
That's literally all it is.
Yeah. And you know, and a very similar thing happened with when I had to try and like navigate. This happens when there are extremes on both sides, and I think, you know, we were talking about this with the government, with politics, but this happens a lot just in culture, and I think it's the way that information is presented and the way that dialogues begin and continue, where it seems like the people who get the loudest microphones when it comes to different topics are people who really, 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 really love something and like stand by it, and they'll fight it to the death. This is the hill they're dying on. It's only good. And there are the people that are like on the exact opposite, and sometimes even just hating something just to be contrarian, right?
Ugh,
you know, you have like you have like the dudes who are like, the Barbie movie completely missed the point, you know? And then you have people that are like, the Barbie movie was nothing. It was the best film that's ever been fucking made, and it made $1 billion, and that's how you know. And I'm like, and then I'm once again, somewhere in the middle, I'm like, I thought it had a good message, but it could have been executed better. And both sides are like, fuck you, dude.
Yep.
Get out of here. Like,
I mean, a good example of that is I said it earlier, but like Star Wars. Like,
yeah.
I said on my trip to one of the guys, I was like, I love all of Star Wars. Like, I love even the bad stuff because I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I just said it in that sentence. I love even the bad stuff. Because I can acknowledge that some of the stuff, actually, some of the stuff that Star Wars puts out is bad. But like, I love the franchise so much that even if I'm like, like 7, 8, 9, not my jam. But you know what? They're a part of the Star Wars franchise. They're doing stuff with it. They're making it. They're doing what they can. And I love it.
Dude, okay, this goes in line with exactly what we're talking about.
Boom.
I actually was just talking last night, and this is something that I love that I've learned to do this, and I hope that I continue to do this the right way. But like, I will tell people, I'll be like, oh, well, Solo is my favorite Star Wars movie. And like, people are like, but then as we're talking about it, like usually as that conversation continues, I reveal that I don't think it's the best Star Wars movie at all. Like, I'm like, it is not the best Star Wars film, but it's my favorite. Like, I recognize that it's not as good as it's not as good for as much as I enjoy it.
Favorite and best are different.
Exactly.
Always.
And I honestly, like, some people would just be like, Rogue One is the best Star Wars movie. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree with that,
It's either Rogue One or Empire.
Exactly. And I'm like, yeah, those are probably the two best. Those are the top
Empire
two,
or Rogue. I think
depending
Empire
on who you are and, your attachment to it. But like, but like, and I do that with music too. I'm like, this is my favorite album by this artist, but it's not their best, or like, like it's not the one that like most people would agree is their best, or like, this is my favorite song by this person, but it's not their best, or like, this is my favorite painting, but it's not their best work. Like,
I agree.
I've learned that I can, like, separating those two is actually a very healthy exercise to engage in on a regular basis, because the things that you have as your favorite, just because it's your favorite doesn't mean it has to be the best, and you don't have to defend it like it should be the best, right? Not everything needs to be a podium style debate point,
Yeah, like, I mean, I even like with my own work, like my best video and my favorite video, ow, that was my knee if you heard that in the mic, are not the same by any stretch. Like, I think my best video is probably my Washington State video, but my favorite is my short that I did like a year back. You know?
Like,
oh, yeah. But favorite and best, I think the lines get blurred a lot for people, but I like that you said that, because what I consider to be a lot of my favorites, I would not consider to be the bests.
No, yeah.
By any stretch.
I mean, well, and, like, there's, I think a really big thing that I brought up, somebody, I forget what it was, around the time that the Barbie movie came out, and somebody was really digging into me about it, and it was so unimportant that I can't even remember who it was at this point, but I just remember like lobbying to them, because they were like, well, this is the biggest movie for women that's ever happened, and it's so huge for women, and it's got all these big points for women. And I was like, well, there's actually been quite a few really great female forward movies that have happened in the past decade, and they like kind of lost steam in their argument. I was like, did you happen to see like Hidden Figures with Janelle Monáe? I was like, did you see that one? Because that was pretty huge and amazing, and it was about 3 black women. Like, did you watch that one? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so you're just saying what you're hearing, you're just repeating it, you're parroting an opinion and then lobbying it as fact. Okay,
yeah, because
got it.
I think with the Barbie movie, like, I genuinely think that's a good movie, and I still think it's one of the better movies this year. But I mean, that also could be just because like, not a lot of these movies this year have been standing out to me, and we also had a strike. So
this Barbie was the best movie of the year, in the year where like you're like, well, what other good movies came out, and everyone goes,
well, like, but I think that where my argument for the Barbie ends, just because I don't feel like it's really my place, is like, I think it's a genuinely really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I like the messages that I got out of it, right? And I know a lot of people that saw it that are like, for me, I got this message out of it, and because they got a specific message out of it, it's one of their favorites, or they consider it the best, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's totally fine, because I can get, like, one of my favorite movies this year was The Meg 2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, yeah.
Come on.
Favorite,
like, what message did I get out of that?
Obviously.
Yeah, what message was in that? Don't go swimming. That's the message.
I really have to emphasize this. I think a movie that did a really good job of subtly showing agency and independence for a strong female character was the live action Little Mermaid this year. I think that like that was really well done, and I feel like it highlighted the agency of a female character without feeling like it was just belittling the other gendered characters just to do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
And to me, there's an art, right? Because, and you and I have talked about this before, there's like a pendulum of culture, right? And it kind of swings back and forth. And as we learn the things that we're doing wrong with culture, we start to sway a certain way, you know, like, and equilibrium, balance, cultural balance, you know, any form of that, it's not a thing that exists in perpetuity, right? In perpetuity. It's not a perpetual thing. Like that pendulum never stops. We're always swinging, and then we go a little too far and we go, oh, okay, oh no, let's dial it back, and then we go a little too far the other way and we're like, oh no, bring it back, right? You know, like it's something that like we'll hit moments where it's like, ah, yes, this feels good and balanced for now. You know?
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree. I mean, I think we should definitely towards the end of December, let's get a list of all the movies that were released this year to theaters, and maybe like the big ones that came out on streaming, because I don't want every movie on streaming, just like the big ones.
You know what we should do is you and I, we should just do for this year, we should do top 5 movies, top 5 shows, top 5 artists. That's it. Like just run through our top 5, right? And just highlight what we liked about them instead of talking about the stuff that we thought was good or not good, right? I read a really good quote in an ecological survey not too long ago that was like, the negative review tends to attempt to highlight the intelligence of the reviewer rather than give a proper review to what it's reviewing, right?
I would agree with that.
I love that quote. And that actually was like, I loved that I read that. It's from like the 80s. And I was like, wow, what a sobering thing to read. Like, what an interesting time this was for ecological journalism, where they could say that in the preface to this giant book. And I was
think
like,
what
wow,
we should do,
that's good. Like, highlight the good stuff.
On top of the top 5s, I think I want to get the list of all the movies that came back out and everything, because I want to speed run them. And if we saw them, let's just say good or bad.
Okay. Oh, I'd like, let's speed
just
run
do
the
like
movies.
a quick, like kind of like best movie, worst movie for the week, where it's either it's one or the other. There is no in between. Even if it was kind of bad, but you still kind of liked it. Like,
all this is making me think right now is, oh shit, I have 7 hours of movies to watch because I need to watch Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon before we do this. Like, I want to be able to say that those were good, but that's like a whole day.
I'm gonna watch Oppenheimer. I'm gonna
watch Oppenheimer. I want to.
I think Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm not gonna watch. I think
it's gonna be good. I think from a cinematic perspective, I think it's gonna be good. And then Killers of the Flower Moon, I'm definitely watching. Like, come on, Scorsese's making a film and DiCaprio's in it. I'm in.
So we'll do good, bad, didn't see.
Okay, there we go. That'll be easy.
And I'll grab only the big movies that came out on streaming. Like,
yes.
There's a couple that I think were pretty big that were like exclusively on streaming, but
yeah, there have been a few this year.
Some of the Disney ones.
Didn't The Gray Man come out this year? Right? Wasn't that?
Yeah, Gray Man came out on Netflix, and I think the little, not the Little Mermaid, but one of the Disney live actions came out exclusively on Disney Plus.
I guess so. I don't know.
I like it.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah. Let's definitely do that. Was there anything else recently that you caught that like really, really sticks out to you?
Not yet. I mean, December, I'm winding down. My content for my own channel is like already kind of ready to go for the month. So
good.
I'm going to be spending my weekends catching up. In December, I usually catch up on movies and stuff that I didn't get during the year, because when the Weekly Planet comes back in January, I like to have knowledge on the movies and the categories that they talk about. And then also, if we're going to recap, then I want to get some movies done. So maybe that'll be like our first episode of January will be our recap.
Yeah.
Give us a month.
I think one thing that I wanted to highlight was Closure in Moscow's new album was amazing. If you're a fan of like that 70s style, like psychedelic rock at all, it's I can't recommend it enough. It's really, really good. They really surprised me. They're a band that have like they've evolved over time, and obviously, you know, them making my top 5, I've listened to it a ton, like front to back.
Oh, yeah.
I'm one of the people, like, when I start an album, I like to listen to the whole thing, you know?
I'm the same way.
Yeah, so I've been listening to it like track 1 to track, I think, 12.
It tells a story sometimes, and it's nice.
Well,
Busy Head.
it kind of does. It kind of does, but not so much that I would like sit here and try to extrapolate it and maybe free associate some things, you know? But yeah, no, it definitely kind of does. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up was that I think what is it? It's like this. Oh yeah, no. I wanted to bring this up. I think I want to do an episode on a giant flaming piece of shit movie that's coming out, and I don't know that you even know it exists, but I want to bring it
Coming
to your
out
attention.
how? Like movies or rent?
It's coming out in the worst way possible. So there's a movie. This is actually how do I say that? Okay, have you heard of Lady Ballers?
Maybe.
Have you heard? No, maybe. Does that ring a bell?
It does, but not enough for me to say yes confidently.
I
guess I'm going to say no.
Do you know what the Daily Wire is?
Yes.
Yes. So the Daily Wire has made a movie called Lady Ballers, and it looks like it is a giant flaming piece of shit.
Isn't Ben Shapiro one of the producers on Daily Wire shit?
I think so.
Because he made a movie about school shooters.
This movie is called Lady Ballers, and it looks like the most misdirected piece of crap I've ever seen in my life. And I wanted to bring it to your attention because I feel like we should hate watch this thing. Like, even just in watching the trailer, I'm like, this movie is going to enrage me. Like,
I'm down.
And
I kind of
want to watch it to like just rip it to shreds. Just be like, this is a piece of crap. Like, somebody wasted a lot of money to make this piece of crap comedy. Like, it's a quote unquote comedy. Can I give you the premise?
Oh, I was looking it up. I was gonna see when it comes out.
I think it's out now. Here's the premise. A bunch of guys figure out that you don't even have to go through any surgery to claim that you're a woman and play sports. So they form an all-male, female basketball team to compete.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds hilarious.
It sounds so stupid and misdirected, and I'm like, I saw it and I was like, do I even give this an extra view count? Like, how do I approach this? Like, because like part of me is like, just don't even watch it. You know it's going to be bad. But then part of me is like, but you know it's going to be bad. You should maybe watch this to see how bad it is.
Matt Walsh is in this?
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Ted Cruz is in this?
Yes, dude. He's in the trailer. I was like, this is a piece of shit.
Ben Shapiro, I called it. Fucking little rat man.
Dude.
Little rat man.
Dude. And it's directed on the Daily Wire.
Dude, it's directed, written, produced, and stars Jeremy Boring. Appropriately named. What a fucking bunch of idiots, dude. This looks so... And I guarantee you this is going to end with... like the leftists coming out and being like, you can't do this because you're not actually. And they're going to be like, we identifying. You said it's okay if we. Oh, it's going to be so bad.
Yep.
All right. That's a good place to end this one then. Because
now
I'm upset.
Oh, no.
No, not like that. Not like that.
Odin's raging. Everybody look out. Monarch.
I'm a Titan. Fuck Ben Shapiro. What an idiot.